thank you all for being here today. So this is part of the team of Skywriters, which is, well, I start first introducing the people here. Stefan, where are you? Oh, okay. So in the very front row, there's Stefan, our VFX producer. We have Vincent here, who's responsible for the shading lighting. And we have Fabian, who oversaw all the CG elements in the film, and I was doing the supervision of this piece. And let me get this fired up here first, because I can't work without it. Skywriters is a documentary about, well, Skywriters. I don't know, how many of you know what Skywriters are? Okay, quite a few. So I will run a little clip about, like, you get an idea of what they do, and it also shows you the process of the skywriting, and especially the shots that we did in this movie, because this presentation is actually not so much heavy on the shot side of work, it's more heavily focused on pre-production and virtual production, actually. And it's a documentary, which makes it a little special in this way. So I will run this little clip that you can look at and enjoy. All right. Thank you. Actually, the two guys you saw there jumping around in the virtual set were actually the director, Niels Otte, and the cameraman, Konrad Lobst, who were very happy that we actually put together like a virtual scene for them to play with. And well, doing a documentary actually had some constraints, and we actually tried to take them real seriously. So we put little GPS beacons in the airplanes while they were actually over in the States shooting these airplanes, so we got the exact speed, the exact height, and all that. At the same time, we put together HDRIs of, well, the shooting locations, but first also some GoPro footage while moving over the Indy 500 racetrack, which was a little communication intensive because they were over in Indianapolis and we had to like remotely figure out where to put these cameras on the plane because the flight administration there wouldn't allow that like directly, so we tried to sneak that in and actually found a pilot who made it possible to put the cameras on the airplane, well, all GoPros, so smaller this, and we shot like these little pictures here, who actually like a big sequence of JPEGs that we stitched together and then found the right position in the, well, continuity of the film actually to put the air-to-air shot in. And I had the pleasure to be in LA to shoot some aerial photography while being there with Jagan, who might some of you have seen last year when I sat here with like the same crew for the VES Awards, which luckily Andreas Fikes won, not us. Well, and we got all this covered because we wanted to have like a very realistic base to a documentary, to like not make matte paintings for everything, but to be really grounded in the real world and to be as realistic as possible with everything, basically. So we got that covered from background, and then there was just the airplane missing.
All right. So when you get the environment and no airplane, that's kind of missing there. But they got tons of photos for the environment and also for the airplane. So we had the director of photography probably get us about 1,500 pictures of the airplanes there, all the details, all everything, turntables of that. So we had an accurate representation of what the airplanes needed to look like. So Christian Leitner did the modeling on that one way before our virtual shoot. So we had everything prepared. Hannah Binswanger did the rigging. So we could add little movements on the flaps and everything to get that little bit of realism squeezed out of it again. I ended up doing UVs and texturing, which was quite interesting because you might think just a blue airplane, there's not much needed there. But we had to spend quite some time on little bits of rust and everything like that to make it believable in the end, so it wouldn't fall out of line. And Vincent took care of the shading and lighting of the shots. Once we got the layout for all the shots, we actually just had about 1.5 weeks to deliver 3 full CG shots with the airplane and some simulations. So that was quite some preparation to do, just schedule-wise, and that we can pull it off. And the really interesting part about the whole project for most of us, I think, was the virtual shoot, though, because just doing CG camera animation in a documentary doesn't really roll too well. It just doesn't look right and doesn't get the feel over from the actual mood of the whole movie. It's a 20-minute movie after all. If there's full CG shots in between, we just notice it. So we ended up setting up a 2-day shoot in a big soundstage, having it all based on the NCAM system for camera tracking, so the DOP could move around completely freely and would always just be tracked while moving. So we could just record and record and record and pick the best parts out of that. To get it all look quite good, there's been Andreas Schuster and Simon Spielmann, who might be in the audience somewhere. I see Simon there, yeah, perfect. Who spent quite a substantial amount of time, I think a couple of weeks before all that shoot, to prepare a system in cooperation with the DreamSpace EU-funded research project, where they hooked up the Katana Live Viewer, which is basically Katana and the live rendering system inside of it, to make it look rather believable, like reflections on the airplane. You could put out HDRs in the background, and it looked all quite well, so the DOP could see a quite convincing picture of what was happening. But as it was all a research project, we weren't quite sure if that would work out, and being on a shoot and not knowing if the data you get is going to work later on. We also set up a little bit of a motion builder backup pipeline on the other side. So we ended up doing 1 day of shooting with motion builder, 1 day of shooting with that live view system. So we could be sure that we got all the data we needed. And it took us a couple of days to actually align the recordings afterwards, because we just didn't know how to do it at first. It's just lots of data and data and data and no connection between that. But it all ended up working out quite well, and it was a great pleasure for everybody, because we could try out about a handful of shots each day and then just pick the best ones that worked out, and it helped convey the feeling of the whole thing. So that was a very pleasurable experience for all of us.
Indeed, I mean, it's all about like staying true, and it's a documentary and all that. But you might have seen this little tablet in the film, and actually, what you saw there, the director moving around the airplanes in the airspace, and that's not really like, you can't do that in real life. So actually, I mean, we're visual effects, so we tend to cheat, but we try to be as realistic and as like in line with the boundaries that we actually had set to create these shots. And we just put a handful of them in the movie. We really had a rigorous process of sorting them out, because actually these shots weren't really dependent on the film. It was a documentary, so we could really pick the cherries and make them nice. And I really loved that the director and the cameraman bared with us, because this project wasn't really like just a 5-minute hobby beside, because they had to spend days in this volume, really be patient with us while we're still in this research phase and putting that all together. So that's a great thing that they bear with us, and that's pretty much it for now. Thank you. Yeah.
Any questions? I have one.
Go ahead.
What are you up to now?
Well, we've been like in this kind of team for, or in virtual production for about 2 years now, and always tapping in this area. Actually, virtual reality is now a big theme and a big topic, and actually right now we're experimenting with the Unreal Engine and the HTC Vive to actually put this on a far more consumer-based, like rapid approach, that we don't spend a long time in this volume, that you actually can dive in with the director, with the cameraman in a couple of hours and actually set together a set and assemble a scene and really get things done in a really short amount of time with less communication.
Great, yeah. Anyone else?
Yeah, there's one in the middle, I guess, or
Is it?
he's just, no, he has
No,
no
he's
question. Sorry.
Okay, then, thank you guys.
Thank you.